What are 5 common issues with novel endings? Let's discuss. Welcome back to Coffee with the Author, so we discuss the craft and business of writing.
For me, issue number 1 is actually issue number 1 and 2. And an ending can feel rushed, where all of a sudden you're there and it's over, or it can have too many bows. So those are like the opposite. One, it's over too soon and you feel unsatisfied and you have a bunch of questions. And the other one is, oh my gosh, are you finally done? So the goal, I think, is to achieve the balance where it's not too rushed and it's not too many bows. And sometimes you have to go to the too many bows side of things to figure out where the right balance is. An example of that would be my novel, The Running Dream, which is about a high school track star who tragically loses her leg in an accident. And getting to the end of it, there was the hopeful ending. So I had the hopeful ending, but I really wanted some more. So then I added a few more bows. And then while I was wrapping things up, I just went completely bow crazy. And I gave the whole story with all 3 endings to my editor. I didn't specify that it was a choice of endings, like A, B, or C. And she came back to me and she's like, Wendelin, too many bows. I'm like, I know, it's a choice, A, B, or C.
Too many notes.
So we wound up going with A. But I think it's a matter of where is that balance, and maybe explore a little in your writing to get to the right place where it feels resonant, but it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, you've just beat this thing to death.
Sometimes the ending is at odds with the rest of the book. I read a novel one time. It was a life and death thriller, and you're rooting for the good guy to beat the bad guys and survive this terrible, situation. And then at the very end, the book resolved on a joke, kind of a pun, kind of a bad pun. And it just didn't fit the mood of the rest of the book. And honestly, when I think about that book, that's all I remember. It'd be like watching a really, really serious movie, and then at the very end, someone slips on a banana peel or something like that.
It kind of makes you hate the rest of the book too. If the ending is disappointing in that kind of way, it leaves a sour taste in your mouth for the entire thing, which is a shame. Another issue I see is that the ending doesn't hold up its end of the bargain. I especially see this in mysteries. I think you make a bargain with your reader when you start writing a mystery that you will be fair about it.
Yeah.
So
yes.
if you read a mystery and you get to page 12 and you feel like, oh, that may be whodunit, and then you get to page 350 and, oh, that's whodunit, you feel really let down. Like, why did I read all those pages? Because I knew on page 12 that's whodunit. Or if you read a mystery and all of a sudden there's some, hand wavium and some character has come back to life suddenly there at the end. There was no indication of that anywhere in the story. Even when I reread the story, which I'm going to be angrily redo to make sure I wasn't wrong, you're feeling disappointed, you're feeling kind of robbed. A fair mystery is one where the author leaves little clues all the way along that a careful reader will pick up on, or that a reader can go back to and say, oh, I missed that. The idea really for me is that you allow your reader to figure out whodunit right before it gets revealed whodunit. So they have that wonderful, satisfactory feeling, not only that they figured it out, but that it all made sense.
Aha. For number 4, I would say it would be characters acting out of character, just to make the plot work or to make the ending come together. I read a novel a while back where it was about 2 girls who were trying to catch a bad guy. There was some kind of psychopathic killer at their school. All the way through the book, she's leading the chase all the way through. And then at the end, just to make this little tiny twist at the very last page kind of work out, the one that was very, very active in chasing down the bad guys, all of a sudden became very passive. And the other one, who was always kind of quiet and kind of following along, all of a sudden started running the show. Just so the very ending, there could be a little twist and make that work. It goes back to that thing you talked about keeping its promise. You kind of make this unwritten promise with the reader that these characters, they may not always be consistent. They may bounce around a little bit, but at their core, they're the same people throughout the book, because people don't become different people in the course of a few days or weeks or months. And you have to honor that if you want the book to feel real.
So they need to be self-consistent. That's not to say that your character shouldn't grow. Your character should grow and learn
Absolutely.
and become an evolved person by the end, but not evolved into something that is counter to the core that they've demonstrated.
Yes.
And finally, there's just the ending that doesn't resonate. It doesn't leave you feeling really great when you're done with the book. And I think that that can be caused if the author doesn't have a focused theme. If you're going for a theme, that it should be like, what is this book about? And is the theme then supported by the ending of the story? Also, it can be caused by if the author doesn't really have a firm idea on where they're going with the story. Not the theme so much as the direction. Like, where are they driving toward? Where are they trying to wind up? So if the story just sort of fizzles out because the author didn't have a real clear idea of where it was going to end. I'm a firm believer in having at least some idea of where you're going when you start off on your story. Your ending's got to be like your swan dive off the page.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's more important than a chapter ending. Chapter endings are important, but the ending of the whole book is what leaves your reader with a feeling about the whole book. Maybe something like a callback. I've always liked a callback, some phrase that's used in a story, and then the whole novel ends with that. It just kind of gives you that kind of resonant feeling about the whole book. Ideally, you want your reader to continue thinking about your book after it's over with.
Absolutely.
So that it has some kind of emotional impact on them. And they run it through their mind. They want to spend more time with those characters. They really enjoyed that time with those characters. And an ending can do a lot toward creating that feeling in your reader. You want your story to live on in their mind. And a great ending is a great way to accomplish that.
In terms of how do we get to this, it's not really a nuts and bolts thing. It's more of an attitude thing. Imagine you're going to a fancy dinner. You won a big award, right? You're up for a big book award or something like that. And you're going to go to a fancy dinner and they fly you out to New York City and you're in your hotel room and the car's going to come by and pick you up. You probably want to start early and think about what you're going to wear and then put it on and then go look in the mirror and go, not quite right. It's a little too stuffy. Maybe I'll take off these dress shoes and put on some Chucks just to give that kind of casual aspect. And you try that and you go, no, wait a minute. No, I still look a little too this, a little too that. Get rid of the necktie, maybe add a necktie, maybe put on a leather jacket instead of a suit coat. Try different things and modify them. Don't be afraid to take it all off and try something else.
Put on too many accessories and then
Too many
take
bows,
most of them
right?
off.
Put on a whole bunch of little bows around your neck, 4 bow ties. And then at some point, you're going to look in the mirror. You need to go, damn, I look good. And when you get that damn I look good feeling, you're probably there or you're very close to it. I guess what I'm saying is don't necessarily take the very first thing that you write and think, okay, that's it, it's done. Spend some time with it, go back, read it again. And sometimes you'll find that just backing up a couple chapters and then reading, and then when you get to the ending, as a reader, the time is compressed. Instead of taking weeks to write these last chapters, you're reading them in a matter of minutes. And you get to the end and you kind of have an idea of what you might want to see.
That is actually the best way to determine if your ending resonates. If you just back up and you read through and then you get to the end yourself and you feel like, oh, that was a little short. Or, oh boy, I can streamline this. I spend a lot of time on endings. I have just agonized over a word, over 3 words, over like, oh, maybe I should add a couple of sentences about this or that. I mean, and it evolves. It is probably the single page in the entire manuscript that evolves the most by the time you're done. Okay, well, that's it for this episode. If you have ideas about endings or want to share some of your own experiences, we'd love to read those in the comments. Meanwhile, until next time, dream big, work hard, don't give up.
And keep writing.
It's your swan dive off the page.
9.5.